Good afternoon. This is Dr. Douglas Beck with the Hearing Matters podcast. And today I'm here with my friend Brandon Sawalich, President and CEO of Starkey. And Brandon, welcome aboard. Glad to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Doug. I'm glad to be here, and I always enjoy our conversations.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, I want to start with something very important, and it's not scripted. I just want to say a word, and you tell me what comes to mind. If I say NASCAR Xfinity Series.
Oh, my son, of course. Yes, William. It's first.
Yeah, I met William up in Minneapolis. He's doing an incredible job. It's just incredible.
He is. He's forging his own path, and I saw when I was coaching Little League since he was 4 or 5. I coached him for 8 years, and focus and just his emotional intelligence, and he's a sponge.
And he's winning, which is shocking because he's a very young guy.
He's got his first Xfinity race this Saturday in Miami at Homestead. So,
and he's like 12 years old, right?
In my head, that's what I see. But he's 18 now. And Toyota has him on a very strict workout program where I guess maybe he didn't get that discipline for me, but he's doing all he can and he's committed. So
that's great. I was very impressed with him. Very, very smart, very dedicated young man. So listen, I want to talk a little bit about your views on life and reality, and certainly Starkey. And when I think about Starkey, I met Bill Austin about 40 years ago when I first got into this profession, and Bill was unique. He was the founder, he's the owner, and he's kind of a legend in our profession. And so the first thing I want to say is, what's that like to walk in his footsteps? Because everybody knows him.
Yeah, those are big footsteps. And the one thing that I've known him is about as long as you have, but I've been at Starkey for now 30 years.
Yeah.
And I've heard many stories, and Bill will be the first one to tell you learn from your mistakes and failures and do the best you can. And the stories that I would hear are just like we all did, when we were kids, pick the grandparent and, okay, I've heard this one. It all makes sense. I mean, it all came together for me over the years, because for him, he'll be the first one to tell me, do what you think is best. Don't do it like, you think I would. If you need information or anything, you know where to find me.
That's great. That's great.
He's really allowed me to set the company on a direction. And I'm fortunate where I know where to find him. I know where he is right now. He's patient, not far from my office here. And just to pick his brain and we just talk about things. And, he's that mentor that you could, still have around. And he's going strong and doing well.
He is. I saw him a few weeks ago in Minneapolis, and I really enjoyed my time with him. Anyway, listen. So when I was up there for Starkey Day, you mentioned that you don't really think of Starkey as a hearing aid company. I'll leave that to you. How do you view it now?
Well, when I started 30 years ago, and I think there were 76 hearing aid manufacturers.
Yeah.
I think that's what the number was, because one of my first jobs was in all-make repair, sorting out all the brands, makes, models from everybody, right?
Sure.
And, over time, as we know, technology, digital, everything started evolving. And I think everybody, when I started, you were buying your K-amp or your circuits, various circuits elsewhere.
Right, Zeta noise blocker.
Yeah. Exactly. And, 9 years ago, I knew that we had to change. And we're a technology company. And we're a technology company that, starts from design and development. And then, yes, we have to manufacture and all the things that come with being a hearing technology company. And that's who we are today. We've invested in that. And that's the big change of Starkey. Behind the scenes, I've seen it. And a lot of people see it now. The industry is seeing it by the products we're coming out with.
Yeah, I think it's fair to call it a technology company. And that gets me right into the issue of sensors. And you guys were the first to integrate sensors into hearing aid technologies. And I'm wondering, two things. Did you get pushback on that? And where's that going?
Back in, it was 2017. And our industry, you make incremental improvements, right?
Right.
And, whether in the 90s, a new face plate or battery door or some type of circuit, then got in digital. And like 10 years ago or so, you're talking about wireless connectivity and accessories and
Sure.
sound improvements. I got tired of the incremental thinking, in my mind. Small thing is like,
Yeah.
let's think
Yeah.
big. What can we do to redefine the hearing aid? And a lot of that too came from Bill's vision that he's had for many years. He and I talking about it.
Yeah. Sure.
And like, we're going to go for it. We got to think big. This incremental stuff, where you come out with improvements, but you change the name or, different color, different look and whatever. So we were the first with AI and integrating the sensors into the product with Livio. And you have to start somewhere.
So the first sensors that you guys used, you were counting steps, I believe, and that was available in Apple's technology and a few others using basic accelerometers that were on the chip. But then you took that the next step and you used those same accelerometers to determine who was physically falling over. And tell me about that. What brought that to fruition?
Well, look at a demographic. We know what happens with people with hearing loss, their balance. And if we can save one life through our technology and sensors, from a fall detection, where it alerts 3 family members that the hearing aids detected a fall, and we wanted to start there. So then from that, you start, okay, what's next? Because we push it as far as we can, that technology allows. And now,
and Brandon, if I can just interrupt. So the way that worked, that was Livio, right?
That was Livio in 2018.
So in 2018, what would happen is if the accelerometer suddenly had an activity that indicated a fall, the hearing aid had been wired up ahead of time that it would send out alerts to 3 different text messages, and that the loved one, the family, would get an alert that mom has fallen, dad has fallen, somebody has fallen, and then they could act in response to that.
Yes. Yep. They could call and check in or drive and check in and make sure everybody's okay.
And now you've taken it to the point where you're actually doing vestibular diagnostics with even more sensitive sensors and gathering more diagnostic information. Can you tell me about that?
And so we're looking at now fall prevention. So we've got the back end covered. So now let's look up front where how stable is the patient with their balance, walking, their gait.
Yeah.
It starts monitoring, basically, of course, within the hearing aid, is somebody a high risk for falls, and will inform the family member because we all know, as I said, it's somebody falls, depending on the severity, it could be a quick, downhill in what they're capable of doing. So people ask me all the time, why do that? It's not going to be widely used. Why not? I mean, if you're talking about, like I said, whether it's one person or 100, I mean, if we can do it and it doesn't sacrifice what we're doing with the overall hearing aid sound quality, we're going to do it.
Tell me, have you heard from any of the hearing care professionals? Because this is kind of the chatter that I heard a few years ago. Oh, what are we doing in fall prevention? What are we doing with fall detection? That's not audiology. That's not hearing instrument dispensing. Did you get any of that? Did people push back?
No, it was more of a tell me more. How do I talk about it? Because we redefined the hearing aid with Livio, and we've been doing so ever since. And when you redefine something, especially in our industry, you have to educate on what's new. Yeah. And it's not for everybody. We were excited, with Livio. It was so many new features that it's kind of like we would just talk about all of them, right? And you'd overwhelm people because it's been heard or seen before. We learned from that because it's not a Swiss Army knife. You got to pick what feature or what does the patient need. And so it's really educating the audiologist and the hearing healthcare professional on what's available in our products, and then them, choosing based on the patient's lifestyle.
All right, that's fair. And in the new Edge AI product, which I happen to wear, I'm not wearing it at the moment because I have my headset on for this video. There's some
right here. It's every day. I love them. Love it.
it's very impressive. I mean, somebody asked, did Starkey ask me to do an endorsement of Edge AI? And you'll see this is on our website. And I said, no, nobody asked me to do that. I wanted to try the Edge AI. I went up to Minneapolis for Starkey Day, and I was blown away. I was so impressed, not because my hearing loss is so significant. I have a mild asymmetric high frequency loss, but because the clarity. And
Yes.
so my signal to noise ratio, people with normal thresholds have an SNR 50, signal to noise ratio to get 50% of the words correct, about 1, 2, or 3 per Meade Killian. Mine is 6. And so I need things clearer. I need background noise decreased, and I need the primary speech signal increased. So I have a better signal to noise ratio. I immediately noticed that when I was walking around the factory, and it was.
I saw your video. I didn't know I didn't know you were fit, quite frankly. And you're right. My approach is, I don't want to pay for endorsements, and obviously,
Well, you didn't pay me.
no, we didn't. And because our products, with Edge AI is like hearing is moving. I want our products to speak for themselves with the patient.
Yeah. So, as an audiologist, what I want to, the message I want to get to other hearing care professionals and to the public who will very likely see parts, if not all of this video, there's about, we could say 38 to 40 million people in the USA who have hearing loss on an audiogram. That's, they do the test, press the button when you hear the beeps, and they're going to come up with hearing loss. About 38 to 40 million out of the 335 million in the USA. But there's another 26 to 28 million who will have normal thresholds, but they need a better signal to noise ratio. They have what's called a listening disorder, and it's not very, very unusual at all. It could be attention deficit disorder. It could be mild cognitive impairment. It could be dyslexia. It could be a lot of things. And what we find is that for many of these people, all we need to do truly is to improve the signal to noise ratio. Now, having said all that, there are certainly many people who have both. As hearing loss increases, so too does difficulty listening. So it's not one or the other. Sometimes it's both. It could be one or the other in some situations. The reason I say that is that when I put on Edge AI, I, for the first time, got a significantly improved signal to noise ratio, and I was much better able to get by in a football stadium, restaurant, dinners, drinks with friends, and it was noticeably better than the other 8 pairs of hearing aids that I've got on my back shelf here. I won't show you any of the labels, but a significant improvement because it is attacking with veracity signal to noise ratios through an advanced deep neural network that operates about 100 times faster than the one you introduced 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes, and I'm the same way with my hearing loss. It's pretty mild in my right ear, high frequency loss. But what I noticed, and when I first put them on and tried it for the first time, it was crisp. That's the first word that came to my mind.
I love that. Yeah,
it was crisp because the syllables were crisper. When I was talking to Bill and others, and I was like, whoa. I mean, we knew what we set out to do.
Yeah.
But I was experiencing it myself, and there's kind of a reason too. We call it Edge AI because when we set this out, I want to give people an edge in their everyday life.
Sure.
It's that superpower. I call it. You heard it at Starkey Days. Is hearing is believing, where if we can help somebody just hear a little bit better, whether mild or what you were just describing, or others that have moderate to profound, it's job number one.
Yeah, it really is.
Sound quality.
Tell me about. Oh, I'm sorry.
Features, but it's sound quality. Sorry,
yeah, sound quality is the key. Tell me about. Use the term innovation beyond technology. Tell me how that relates to Starkey and what your thoughts are.
Well, innovation, that's I've used that for a bit, where when we think of innovation, it's like leadership. Yeah. Leadership, innovation, those are heavy words. A lot of meaning, sometimes just used, throwing out in interviews or marketing. But innovation beyond technology, and at Starkey, I know and believe that to be a good company, it's about service, right? You have the products. We know what goes through there, but we also have to innovate outside of what we're doing with the products through our service and support that we're providing to our customers, along with the patient. I mean, there's education. How do we educate and get across effectively whether it's virtual or in person, which is kind of the Starkey experience that
Yeah.
I talk about. But also, what are we doing thinking ahead the next 10 years in our virtual digital customer service, different types of tools and software that can make it easier for our customers, who the biggest commodity is time. Also for the patient, and what are we doing for the patient beyond a YouTube channel or some type of online instruction where we can help them if they need help with our products.
All right. Well, anything else you'd like to that you can share with us about what's upcoming in 2025? Any new hints?
I think you're going to see more innovative features. You're going to see more innovative, I'll say, sound algorithms and different things from us that we're going to keep improving, because we have a 5-year roadmap. It's my job to look up and out. We have a great team, and that's really what's separating now, at Starkey. It's a new era. And I talk about the era of excellence to all the team here at Starkey, where everything matters. Every job matters. And we're focused on what we do well.
And
talent to do that.
Yeah, you do. You do. I know a lot of the folks there, and the talent is overwhelming. I said that was the last question. I lied. I wanted to get your reflections on OTC, because to me, I think that having OTC for the last 2 years has kind of forced all of us to up our game in many respects. I wonder what your thoughts are.
My thoughts, I was, as you know, chairman of HIA for 4 years or so, and DC was and is still my second home.
Sure.
And because it's for the industry of educating those in DC on what the hearing industry is, what hearing technology is, what it is, and really getting rid of the stigma that's in their minds about what hearing aid is. And at first, I think it was 2015, 16, OTC was...
when we started the FDA, the FTC. Yeah.
And it was kind of all wrong. And, sure, I got defensive and what? No. But then slowly through conversation, but also recognizing, wait a second, this is an opportunity. And I've been getting questions about Apple, right? And it's the same opportunity, because it's bringing awareness and, quite frankly, a platform that, I've personally used for Starkey, that, to educate on, okay, yes, here's an OTC product. Here's what it does. Here's what a prescriptive product. Apple's getting, announced. Yeah, it's a feature. Great. Apple's helping, raise the conversation, hearing loss and what can be done. These aren't negative things. It's not anything that I'm concerned about. I embrace it because it helps with the conversation, because you just mentioned 44 million and under 10% adoption rate.
I want to say it was April, perhaps March of 24. There was an ear and hearing publication that came out, The Global Burden of Hearing Loss. And they pointed out in the US, their estimates combined everybody, and they came out with 70 to 72 million. So 1 out of 5 people in the US with hearing or listening disorders. And what they said that I thought was really convenient and easy is they said only 1 out of 10 people who would benefit from hearing aids wears them. So 9 out of 10 people do not. And that's an incredible market that is underserved and underutilized. And I think that OTC has brought awareness, and I think that's fine. But, OTC hearing aids, I think people are shocked when they start looking at the prices. Now, I can't speak for you. You had a lot more knowledge about this than I did going into this. But I was one of the study groups on HIA, Dave Fabry and myself, Harvey Abrams, Brenta Edwards. I know I'm leaving somebody out, Tom Powers. We were all studying and working on this. And we came up with lots of information on OTC, and we were also a little bit reluctant. But the one thing that we thought was an advantage was the price, because we were all thinking it was $200, $300, $400. The good ones now, I mean, if you look at Amazon, you're spending, $700 to $1,000 for one. So a pair is $2,000. And, people want to do that. I'm okay with it. But I think, gee whiz, for $2,000, you can go to almost any audiologist or hearing aid dispenser and get a major manufacturer's prescriptive product with a hearing test, with somebody looking in your ear to see if wax is actually a problem, with somebody who can program it with a 2 or 3 year warranty. So OTC is very, very interesting. I don't think, has it impacted the marketplace at all? To my knowledge, no.
No, it hasn't at all. And if anything, if I have a frustration, it's the bad actors because, I refrain from commenting on the Facebook ads that pop up, $100 or why pay this? And I'm like, it's a disservice. They're treating it like a commodity, of course. And then what we see and others, and I know this, is that somebody buys it and they are incredibly dissatisfied. They go to one of our customers or a professional and they expect them to fix it. You can't do anything, but you could talk to them then, okay, here's what you said. They just bought $100 device from wherever. And the products that we come out with, it's a third of the process.
Exactly. Well, that's what you were talking about, innovation beyond technology. You've got to have really good technology, but it's not standalone. It needs maintenance. It needs to be professionally fit. And it's like having a great car. You can go out and buy a Lamborghini or a Maserati, great car, but it needs a lot of service to keep it great. And I don't want to say hearing aids take a lot of service, but it's not unusual for hearing aid to go back to the factory once a year. Because receivers do get plugged up with moisture or earwax and stuff happens. But that's all covered if you're buying a prescriptive product. So.
And that's the part of the story that's left out. In the articles and such of really, and that's the part of the education in DC and others that I've done is educating on the entire patient journey, that process.
Yeah, and I think that for the patients who are OTC patients, that's great. I have no issue with that. But what I was asked so often, I think I've told a few folks up at Minneapolis, I have 7 or 8 pairs of OTC hearing aids that were sent to me, and they were sent, honestly, no charge. Yeah. And the manufacturers or the representatives said, "Gee, Doug, if you like this, will you speak about it? Will you write about it?" I said, "Sure." And I didn't write about any of them. I didn't speak about any of them because there's a world of difference. And if I won't wear it, I would have a really hard time advocating that you should wear it. And that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Is how would you treat your mom, your dad? How would you treat your brother, your sister? How would you treat your grandfather, your grandmother?
Because we heard it, right? Well, you could go to the pharmacy and you get eyeglasses. And
sure.
There's 10 components and usually in your set of eyeglasses now,
right?
For over the counter. What we have to do, and you said it because you could see as soon as you see an OTC device, the quality, plastic, everything. There's 310 components in here, 310 that we have to make complex simple, from a processor to a Bluetooth to lithium ion batteries to go down the list.
Yeah.
And it's not it's not as easy as, what they think a hearing aid is as a commodity where, let alone, wax and moisture and protection against the elements.
Yeah.
It's not amplifying sound. This is a mini computer that's thinking for patients.
And Brandon, when you mention lithium ion batteries, it occurs to me, based on my phone use and other hearing aids I've worn, that they lose 5, 6, 7% of their capacity annually. I mean, if you're using them every day, they do tend to wear out. And what I was so impressed with when I first saw it on the screen there a couple of weeks ago, 51-hour battery life with the Edge AI. And so a lot of people in our industry and profession talk about the more processing you do, the more energy it takes. So it's really hard to get batteries above 20, 24, 32 hours. So tell me about that. How do you get 51 hours out of a hearing aid charge?
By having a great, talented team of engineers and having the best processor in the industry.
All right, that's fair.
And I'm not boasting. It's we plan for this, and being who we are, a technology company, privately held, we can make decisions for the patient. Yeah. And what's best for the patient is best for the professional, is best for Starkey. That's our priorities.
And when you go at it that way, I remember this very clearly when you and I met a few weeks ago at dinner, and it was right after the Starkey Day, and you talked about it in terms of a moon launch. And I like that because when you're privately held, as Starkey is, you don't have to talk to the board about, the chance you want to take. And this it's reminiscent of NASA in the 60s, right? When Kennedy said, we're not going to the moon because it's easy. We're going to the moon because it's hard. And within 7 or 8 years, we went from a very basic NASA to landing on the moon in 1969 with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.
Yep.
And very, very impressive. And that was the moon launch that I was thinking about when you said that because we're a privately held company, we can do a moonshot. And that's what I thought you were talking about.
It's exactly the words I used 8 or 7 years ago when our chief technology officer that I hired, Achin Bomix, and one of our principal engineers sat in their office and like, what we did for feedback in 2006 with Destiny.
Yeah.
I said, this industry is about sound. What is the Moonshot? I want the best sounding hearing aid in the industry. 3D, 4D, 5D, whatever you want to call it. We could, what people want to, they're buying hearing aids because they want to hear better noise. And that was the Moonshot, because going back to that incremental improvements, what's the wow, right?
Yeah.
I want people when they hear it, and that's what we're hearing just in 2 weeks with Edge AI, that crisp, that you see it in their eyes, that. I mean, when you connect and it works, it's like, it's like you hear sounds that you forgot. I would say mission accomplished and more to come.
Brandon, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know it's a busy day. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us at the Hearing Matters podcast. I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate having me on, and I enjoy our conversations all the time.
Thank you so much.